Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. This is the Mishnah Yomi for Chof Ir Shabbat Behar. Now today we are starting the fifth parak in Sheviit. So a bit of a change of pace here. The first Mishnah in the fifth parak, Benot Shuach. This is some form of white fig, and it's a slow-growing, slow-ripening fig. As a result, Sheviit Shelahen Shnia. The seventh year for white figs is actually the second year, Shehen Osot L'Shalosh Shanim, because they develop over 3 years. So what happened was their hanata, the blossoming of the fruit, the budding of the flower and first formation of the fruit, happens in Sheviit, but those fruits that blossomed in Sheviit don't actually grow and become edible until 2 years later. It takes 3 years to grow. So these fruits on the tree of the Benot Shuach in the third year, we'd call it the second year of the cycle, it's the third year since Sheviit, those have Kedushas Sheviit. As they actually blossomed, that's the critical time in Sheviit. The Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yehuda Omer HaParsot. A parsa is famous as a measurement, but here it's some kind of fig or date tree that also grows a little slowly. Sheviit Shalahen Motze Sheviit. Their Sheviit year, the year that the fruits have Kedusha Sheviit, is the second year after Sheviit, what we call the year 8, or the first year in the next cycle. Shen Ozot L'Shtei Shanim. It takes them 2 years to develop from their budding. Amru Lo, the sages say to Rabbi Yehuda, Lo Amru Ele Benot Shuach. They said, no, these white figs, these Benot Shuach, they're the only exception. Some of these other trees don't. It's not that Rabbi Yehuda is necessarily wrong, but apparently there were some of these trees, some of them were in Sipori, some were in Tveria, and one of the species, one of the subspecies of this tree that he's talking about did take longer, but most of them, the majority of them, went faster. And he was looking at the trees in his own location, not necessarily the majority of the trees. Good. Mishnah base, Hatomen et haluf b'Shviit. If you want to hide your loof during Sheviit, loof is some sort of bulb, some kind of oniony bulb, and apparently it's according to some scholars of these things, it's a Solomon's lily. So a Solomon's lily, a lily is a bulb, and it's some kind of bulb, but doesn't want to plant it, he's tomen, he's hiding it. Like Issachar, the brocha, he's tamune chol, he's hidden in the sand, his treasures. So Tomen, he's hiding his loof and Sheviit, he's putting it into storage. And where do you store bulbs? Well, you store them in the ground. If you store them outside the ground, they'll dry out and they'll be ruined. So you store them in the ground, but putting a bulb into the ground, that looks an awful lot like planting, and that's usher on Sheviit. So he doesn't want to plant it. He wants to hide it. So we need something of a hecker, so people know what he's doing. Rabbi Meir Omer, Lo yifchot misatayim. He should not bury less than 2 seah. That's a pretty big amount, 12 kav, in one place. He's putting them into one hole in the ground, not planting them individually like he would for planting to make it grow, but he's putting them all in one hole in the ground. Ad gova shlosha tefachim, and pile them 3 tefachim high, deep into this hole. V'tefach achar agabav, and put a tefach of dirt on top. So this way it looks, again, remember, we call the dung heaps. It's one big pile instead of scattered, so it doesn't look like planting. It looks like you're putting them in just for storage, because you normally plant them by spacing them out, not putting them all together and burying them under a tefach of dirt, because when you plant something, you just put a bissel of dirt on it, not a whole tefach. Chachamim omrim lo yifchad me'arbat kavin. You need 4 kav. That's a little bit less than the 12 kav that Rabbi Meir has. Ad gova tefach, and you pile them 1 tefach of agavav, and they agree that you put a tefach of dirt on top so it doesn't look like planting. Tamno b'makom drisat odom, and it's best, required in this case, to bury it where people walk, because if people are walking around there, then it makes sure they're not going to sprout. So the vibrations or whatever it is, the force prevents it from sprouting. So even though he stored it in this way where it looks like storage, Lamaisa, you don't want them to sprout because you're putting them into storage, not planting them. Shkoyach Rabosai, good Shabbos.